He's one of the most famous men who ever existed. He was the last of the good emperors and of the Roman Empire, and was probably one of the most influential. Is still is one of the most influential person who ever existed, whether it is as a writer, as a war chief, or as a political figure. Um, Despite all of that power, wealth, and I think contrary to what people believe, his book Meditations wasn't a law book or a book that he wrote to in popularity or to publish at the time. It was just a private journal. He wrote it to himself to keep him from going crazy under the stress. You have to imagine that the man was probably the biggest political figure at the time, war chief, and had many other functions that he had to, uh, let's say, take the responsibility for and endure. And despite all that, he didn't live in a palace. He didn't eat grapes. He didn't eat luxurious meals, or he didn't have like that much of a luxurious life, actually. And he is what we consider a Stoic philosopher. And we're going to go back and circle back a little bit later on that. But he spent most of his reign as a man who had simple tastes in muddy tents on the front of lines of wars, dealing with a few pandemics, including the plague and over family betrayal, assassination attempts, and all of that. You get the picture. He's the man who basically owned the world at the time and needed to work on his temper, anxiety, and his thoughts. And it's actually what we're going to talk about and trying to be better at that. Most of our stress comes from trying to fix things where we have zero power over, like not getting your promotion, not being able to get the girl that you want, the man that you want, not being smart enough because, you were born in a poor family, and things that basically you cannot control. You cannot control the weather, the will of people to be your friend, to give you a promotion, or what people think of you even. And basically Marcus Aurelius and most Stoics philosophers suggested that instead of worrying on things you cannot control and the things that matter to you the most and make you anxious, you should focus on problems that you have control over. So you have a few internal things: your opinions, your intentions, your efforts, going to the gym, going to the library, to study, to work, going to work, staying extra hours to get that promotion, etc. That you have the control over, but you don't have the control of the outcome, the economy, the world, the wars, the people's actions, people's reaction. You don't own this. And if you waste your energy on that bucket, the external one where you have no control over, you will focus only on things you cannot control, and eventually will drive you crazy, anxious, depressed even. But if you indeed were to work on something that you could control, you would become almost invincible. I mean, imagine that you would go to the gym every day, that you would read a book every day, and that basically you would do as you intend. And I think most of us have good intentions. When we wake up, we want to do better. We want to be better. We want to be admired. We want to be intelligent. We want to be seen as kind. I mean, I think a very tiny of the population doesn't want that, but just my opinion. Regardless, we want to do good, depending on what good means for us. However, you almost have no control over that. You have power over your mind, outside events. Realizing this, and you will find strength, is one of Marcus Aurelius' quotes. And this quote, I hope, will help you understand his philosophy and exactly who he is and what he stood for. For example, we usually get angry because we're surprised by people being rude to us. We expect people to be nice, to be respectful to us. And when they aren't, we feel personally attacked. We feel threatened, offended even. And Marcus Aurelius is basically arguing for the opposite. Expect the worst in people, the rudeness, the offensiveness, the racism, whatever it is that you think that people will give you. For example, if you're a woman in a corporate world, well, expect that people would be sexist. And Marcus Aurelius argued that a bad person is just someone who is spiritually blind. They don't know the difference between good and evil. And as you expect the good, let's say the bad, sorry, you would see that you're not patient enough with people. If you take the example of the spiritually blind, if a blind person bumps into you, you're not going to get angry. You're going to realize that this person didn't mean any harm. And you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. I shouldn't be angry at that person. That person didn't realize that they were harming me or that they harmed me. And even if they don't excuse themselves or they don't apologize, I doubt that any of us, unless on a very bad day, you would go at him and unleash yourself or be arguing or even violent with that person. You're being patient. And basically, Marcus Aurelius says that we should view mean people the exact same way. They're just as confused about how to act as we are. They're just as clueless as we are, and they don't necessarily know the difference between good and evil. Most people don't. And we tend to, and this is my take here, but we tend to, I think, overestimate the intelligence of people, whether it is the actual IQ or the emotional intelligence. We tend to think that, oh, maybe, especially I think highly intelligent people, they tend to think that people will be responsible for their actions, for their word, or even for their constance with us, in the sense that, well, we expect them to be friends. We expect them to be good to us. We expect them to be loyal every single day. We expect them to be good. If you're expecting that from your partner, you would think, yeah, that's perfectly normal that I expect you to be kind, sweet, lovely, caring, etc. to me every single day. But the reality is that, well, that person might have a bad day. That person might have not the intelligence or the spiritual room for that at the moment to realize, oh, I did a mistake. Or perhaps they just don't care about you. There are multiple of reasons and there are thousands of excuses to explain the behavior of people. But the problem lies into you. The problem lies in the imagination. And there's an interesting quote about that. It's we suffer more in our imagination than we do in reality. And I think it's because we get anxious about people's reaction. We're thinking, oh my God, what do people are going to think about me if I come up with this piece of clothes tomorrow at work? Or what are people going to think of me if I gain weight, if I lose weight, or if I change my hair color, my hairstyle? Well, truth is, unless you're super close with them, probably they won't even make a remark. And even if they do, it's probably something they will forget about. It's probably something that they will not even think about. So the best thing is, don't let it eat you. And don't expect someone's lack of manners, poor behavior, don't expect that to be something that is intentional. And even further than that, don't let it consume you and ruin your inner peace. We have 24 hours in a day. And the moment you let one person ruin 1 hour of your day, 1 day of your life, it's like you wasted that. You wasted that moment on something that probably will not matter. Think about it. If you were to jump in time 10 years from now, how bad is that situation really? Even if you get fired from a work, it's like, well, probably you're going to tremble. You're going to think to yourself, well, shit, I just got fired. Life sucks. I have responsibilities. I have accommodation to pay for. I have my kids. I have my wife. Yeah, but you're gonna come back, chief. It's not a death sentence that you're facing. And even a death sentence has some, I would argue that the death sentence has some piece for, or let's say place for reflection, place for philosophy even. You could think about it in a different way. And you can act. There's always a choice. So the best revenge is to be unlike the people who perform the injury, unlike the people who hurt you. And there's some interesting idea here. And I think this is pretty close to, for example, one quotes from Jesus or the Bible, however you want to put it. But when Jesus says, when someone is being rude to you or slaps you, give the other cheek. And it's not like you should blindly let people step over you. It's like, if you're being kind, nothing can really hurt you. What's the worst that can happen? You know, that person bumps into you, that person spit at you, the person broke up with you. Yeah, but they haven't killed you. You're still there. You know, even if you get fired, even if you fail your exam, it's not the end of the world. And we tend to think too much of too little. We drown ourselves in glasses of water. Another interesting thought is that usually when the problem happens, we think, well, for example, I don't know, you broke your leg. You broke up. You had a really bad day. Somebody close to you died. So you might think to yourself, this is stopping me from doing my work. And Marcus Aurelius would say the problem is the work. It's not the end of the road. So if you have, and I think it's one of the good analogy that he has, if a candle gets blown out by the wind, a great fire consumes the wind and uses it to grow bigger. So if you get stuck in a long line at the store, you shouldn't complain. You should use it as an opportunity to practice patience. And it's exactly what the quote says. The problem is not the problem is the way you handle the problem. And I think it goes a long way to say that, the problem itself is not the delay, the fact that you broke your leg, Sarah. It's a training moment for your mind. It's a great way for you to strengthen your mind, to strengthen your spirit. And this is exactly what Marcus Aurelius says when he says, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You should embrace the problems because the problems, they are often more challenges than problems. And they offer you with a position. You gain weight? Well, it's probably a good time to reconsider your diet or reconsider your choices, reconsider your health and your share of activity or your routine. Anyway, all these things will be on the long term beneficial to you because they're a small realization, small problem that will come up with a long-term solution and a better solution. A lot of us spend time saying, I'll be happy when I get that. And there's a really interesting thought from Theo Van. Theo Van is an American comedian that I really like for his wit. And one of the things he says is, he says, well, when I'll be there, you're gonna see. Like I'll start when it gets perfect. Like when I'll get my shit in line, when I'll get my life together, I'll be doing that and you're gonna see. And I think a lot of us were thinking this way. We're like, yeah, wait and see, because I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna be less depressed. I'm gonna be in shape. I'm gonna be smart. I'm gonna read the amount of books I said I will read in this year. And then we say, oh yeah, I didn't have time. Well, what did you do with the 24 hours? Well, I went to work, 8 hours. I slept, let's say 8 hours as well. Still have 8 hours within the day. It's a lot. So when you say, yeah, I want to make it perfect. Well, no, you're just waiting for, you're just delaying the problem, just not facing the problem even. So if you're trying to start a diet, the hardest part is to start today. It's not to start tomorrow, or it's not to keep up. If you go to the gym, you might think to yourself, well, this was pretty hard today. I don't know if I should go tomorrow. Well, the problem is that it gets easier. But the problem is that the first step is always the hardest. The second step is the second hardest, and so on and so forth. So when you see people who have really good routine, you think, oh, they have figured it out, man. Like, look at this guy. He got the promotion. He's very in shape. He's handsome. He's great. And I'm just a miserable fuck. Well, truth is, maybe he's as miserable as you. Maybe he's less intelligent than you. And actually, it's often the case. Like, often simpler people have it figured out because they don't think too much. They're just doing. And this is exactly what you should do. You should trick your mind. You should fight your mind and not look for, let's say, excuses or ways to put it. It's like, what's stopping you from doing that? You don't have time, you have kids, blah, blah. Hey, that person too. How did they figure it out? What is it that they're doing better than me? And it's not a way to compare yourself. It's not what I'm arguing here. But it's like, if somebody that you compare yourself with, or you're trying to show the world that you're better than them, but if that person made it or did it, then how come you haven't? And you're focusing so much on the outcome that you're not realizing that the way is the path. It's like, the point is not to be having a six-pack. It's not like what you want. What you need to want is to go to the fucking gym. It's to have a proper diet. It's not to say, well, I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be a better person when I have money. Well, you will die tomorrow, maybe. So what if you die? Well, you stop playing. Because if I was to tell you have 24 hours left, you'd say, well, man, no, I'll do that and I'll do this. And why haven't you before? Why haven't you went on a hike or visited the country that you said you visit? Yeah, I had no money. All right, that's fair. But then in those 24 hours, what will you do else? I'll call my family. Okay, why haven't you before? And then you say, oh, I didn't have time. Okay, that's fair. Those arguments are totally understandable. But if you were to die in 24 hours, I can assure you that a lot of people will be like, damn, I haven't done what I said I will do. I haven't read the books that I said I would read. I haven't studied as hard as I said I would. I haven't went to the gym like I said I would. I wouldn't work as much as I said I would. Yeah, that's the point. You could die tomorrow. So stop planning to be a good person and just be one right now. Try. Do it. Nothing is stopping you. And there's a really interesting book that I quote last time and I said, is the power of now. Tomorrow doesn't exist. What matters is what you're doing today. If you're thinking about tomorrow, you already failed. Because you're thinking about something that doesn't exist. The past and the future, they don't exist. They only exist in your head. What exists is the present. The past is just a formulation of your thoughts, your memories. But it doesn't exist. It's gone already. If you had to say goodbye to your friend 10 minutes ago and you're like, fuck, I haven't told him about the way I felt about what he said the other day and that made me feel bad. Well, it's done. It's gone. This moment is gone. This opportunity is gone. If you're saying bye to that girl you haven't kissed or this man that you haven't told that you were in love with him and you're not going to see for, let's say, a month, 1 year, and you're thinking, I should have. Well, that's the problem. You should have, but you haven't. Did you? And it's the same with the future. You're thinking, yeah, I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow you might be dead. And if you started today your diet, your gym, your studies, etc., whatever it is that you're really into, well, you'd be proud of yourself because you said, well, at least I can die a happy man because I tried. Because I said I would, and I did. And it's not like you have to say it. It's like you have to do it, man. It's exactly what Goggins was saying. So, Stoicism isn't really about a statue or having no feelings. A lot of people confuse it with, well, it's so easy to say. You shouldn't have no feelings. It's not what he's saying. Marcus Aurelius actually lost his wife, his children, if I'm not mistaken. And yet, he's there. He's still doing the job. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to be sad. You cannot cry. You cannot have feelings. But if you haven't built your citadel inside of you, if you haven't built that will inside of you or that strength, that inner strength that holds you together, then you're going to suffer and you're going to make it worse. Let's say your husband or your wife dies. Well, the world will be hell for you. And nobody's saying no to that. But if you don't have it together, if you don't hold your shit together, if you're not able to resist to the stress, resist to the path, Marcus Aurelius and myself would tell you it's going to be even worse. It's going to be hell times 10. because you have people that count on you. You have your parents, you have your children, your future children, you have your friends, your colleagues, whatever it is. But you have yourself. As that's the most important thing. Yourself. Think of you as the kid that you were when you were 10. What did the kid when you were 10 wanted to be? He wanted to be that handsome man that people look up to for being smart, muscular, masculine, intelligent, respected, blah, blah. And for that many reasons. What did you want to be? You wanted to be that beautiful woman who was respected, intelligent, hardworking, etc., etc. Well, you have to do it. You have to be. And unless you're creating that inner strength within you, that resilience that you're building through the experience of life, through doing things instead of thinking about things, because as I said, you will suffer more in your head than you will suffer in reality. Because unless you're dead, nothing is over yet. Nothing. So when Marcus Aurelius says, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. By the way, it's not talking about man. It's talking about the humankind here. You have to be that person. And if I was to basically make a summary, you should only worry about what you do, not what happens. You should zoom out and have a perspective that your problems are tiny compared to the universe and compared to the rest of things. You should use every bad thing as a chance to practice a good virtue, and you shouldn't talk about your values. You should show them through your actions. That's all for me. Peace.